Bombshell of the day. Volodymyr Zelensky bursts onto the Middle East scene. The Kremlin is in a panic. Ukraine is assembling a new power alliance. Secret agreements against Russia. Zelensky is breaking the rules of geopolitics right now. Meanwhile, in the US, the failure of the century. Donald Trump ignored it. Now the Ukrainian drone proposal has to be paid for. The White House is cracking. Trump is preparing brutal purges. A power struggle has begun. Urgent war is on the brink. Trump's ultimatum to Iran. Will there be a response? America is furious. Trump's ratings have plummeted to rock bottom. A global upheaval. Ukraine is emerging as a leader. The US is losing control. A new world order. Kyiv is setting the rules. The Kremlin and the White House are in shock. I'll tell you all the details in just a moment. Greetings, this is Ukraine Today, Victoria Perepelitsa, and the latest events. The Syrian gambit, Ukrainian style, the Kremlin is in a panic, and right now Ukraine is shaking up the Middle East. Volodymyr Zelensky is breaking Putin's game. Secret agreements against the Russians, the bunker dwellers are out of play. The president of Ukraine held a bilateral meeting with the acting president of Syria. There were also negotiations involving delegations from both countries and a trilateral meeting with Turkey.
We are building new relationships, opening up new opportunities, and expanding cooperation in the interests of security. We managed to discuss everything, from issues of security and defense, and the situation in the region due to all the events surrounding Iran, to energy and infrastructure cooperation between our countries.
A historic moment. The president of Ukraine is in Syria on an official visit for the first time. And this is not just a visit, but a geopolitical breakthrough. Following the meeting, Volodymyr Zelensky announced agreements to work together to provide greater security and opportunities for the development of both countries' societies.
We discussed the situation in the region and the prospects for its improvement. We also discussed the circumstances of Russia's war against Ukraine. I am grateful for the support. There is great interest in exchanging military experience and expertise in the field of security.
Official Kyiv is acting decisively. According to Zelensky, they discussed not only the war, but also Ukraine's strategic role as a food giant. This concerns the food security of the entire region.
We fully understand the energy and infrastructure challenges Syria is currently facing. We are ready to work together so that the opportunities for our countries and peoples continue to grow. We spoke in detail about how to overcome the consequences of the war, as well as about the negotiation process regarding Russia's war against our state and people.
Meanwhile, in the United States, a scandal of the century is brewing, and American officials are already sounding the alarm. A fatal mistake has been made. In August 2025 in Washington, Sun rejected the drone deal with Ukraine and ignored the warning about Shaheeds. This failure is now something the White House itself is paying for. Axios reports on this. Ukraine offered the US a ready-made formula for dominance, interceptors, hubs in the Middle East, and turnkey protection for allies. But Trump's team simply dismissed the idea, considering it just PR. Now comes the cold shower. Iran is ramping up its use of Shaheeds, the US is falling behind, and even Americans themselves admit this was a strategic failure. Ukrainian technologies could have changed everything, but they were ignored. American officials are talking about this, but the US president is still not ready to admit the obvious. Perhaps someone else will do it instead. Urgent reports are coming in about Trump's hospitalization. The White House states that he will disappear from the public eye until the end of the day. There are no details, but the tension is off the charts, and it seems Marco Rubio is already ready to make his move. Meanwhile, Trump is completely losing his mind. Donald is considering large-scale personnel changes in his administration due to political pressure from the war with Iran and falling approval ratings. The White House is on the verge of a personnel earthquake. After the resignation of the Attorney General, top officials are under threat. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick, Secretary of the Army Dan Driscoll. Reuters reports this. The Trump administration is falling apart at the seams. Against the backdrop of the war with Iran and declining support, he is considering a reboot of power through massive reshuffling. Moreover, the conflict has already hit Americans in their wallets. Fuel prices are rising, approval ratings are falling, and Republicans are getting nervous ahead of the elections. The resignation of Attorney General Pam Bondi was the catalyst, and it seems this is only the beginning. Voices are already being heard inside the White House. Tough measures are needed to show control over the situation.
A transformation to demonstrate action, isn't that a good thing?
Despite the chaos, everything is officially denied. The White House insists that the team is the strongest in history and that they have already secured historic victories.
Voters can tolerate ideological messages, but they feel fuel prices immediately.
The numbers are devastating. Only 36% approval and nearly 60% against war with Iran. Trump himself is furious with the media. He demands more positivity but receives a wave of criticism instead.
Trump is finished, a political explosion is rocking the US, the Pope is going on the offensive against the White House, Macron is tearing Donald apart in front of the whole world, and inside the country there is real chaos. A secret coup in Washington, Marco Rubio is seizing power. America is in flames, the No Kings movement is blocking the country. The elites are fleeing, the allies are accusing Trump of lying. All the fiery details are coming up next. It has finally happened. Trump is being squeezed from all sides. A sensation in the Vatican, Pope Leo, who had maintained an icy silence for 10 months, has officially declared war on the White House. The pontiff, who became the first American to lead the Catholic Church, had avoided commenting on his homeland and had never mentioned it publicly. The President of the United States. But now everything has changed dramatically. In recent weeks, Pope Leo has become a sharp critic of the war in Iran. For the first time, he publicly mentioned Trump's name in a direct address. This is a significant change in tone and approach. The Pope is personally challenging Donald, becoming his main opponent on the global chessboard. Macron also publicly humiliated Trump. The French leader shook up the media space with a bold attack. He claimed that Trump is weakening NATO by publicly criticizing the alliance. Macron openly stated that the US president is sowing chaos and betraying allies. Trust in Washington has been ground to dust. The White House is accused of feeding the alliance with lies and uncertainty. And while Trump is being attacked from the outside, inside his own country, the situation has become even more unstable. Power is being seized. A sensational turn in the US. At the Conservative Party conference, a vote was held that is traditionally considered an early barometer for the core of the US MAGA movement. And the results are simply staggering. Marco Rubio has achieved the impossible. His popularity has soared 12-fold in a year. Rubio is literally absorbing Trump's base, pushing out ideologues like Steve Bannon and gradually diminishing Pence's influence. Here's what else is striking. Representatives of moderate Republicans are almost absent from the vote. This means that all of Rubio's actions and statements are aimed at the MAGA core, and here he is confidently taking control. His popularity is growing so much that now almost all foreign policy statements and moves in MAGA circles go through him. This is the end of the Donald era. It's clear that Rubio is seizing the control that previously belonged to Trump. In fact, this is a political coup in the USA. Rubio confidently leads the processes, successfully eliminates Trump and his rival, and builds his own absolute power. And if you think that the political coup in the US is limited to the domestic arena, then let's take a look at foreign policy. And here, Rubio has once again stunned the world. He steps onto the world stage with a diplomatic sledgehammer. Secretary of State Rubio threatened NATO with a total reassessment of relations after the war in Iran. According to him, the US is disappointed with some allies who did not provide access to bases for military operations in the Middle East. At the same time, Rubio emphasized that the US role remains key for the alliance. He hints that the US is always ready to act decisively to ensure freedom of navigation and international rules, even if it means acting through a coalition of countries. This is the first signal. Rubio is already shaping the world order, seizing the levers of control. He is already forming a foreign policy strategy that could extend to the global alliance and the world's energy security. Other details also point to a split within the White House. The US took a desperate step and secretly brought Ukrainian air defense aces to St. Petersburg, to the Persian Gulf, disregarding Trump's bans. The Times publication shook the information space. Despite the president's outcries that Washington does not need Zelensky's help, the U.S. Central Command is secretly begging Kyiv for rescue behind Trump's back. Trump tried to portray Zelensky's proposal as political PR, but was hit by the reality of the situation. Teams of 200 Ukrainian air defense geniuses are already in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE. While Trump is making noise, our aces are scorching the skies of the Middle East, destroying Iranian drones to smithereens. Now, the Pentagon is learning from Ukrainian masters. Their tactic of mobile, cost-effective drone destruction groups has become the last hope for America's allies. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Trump has fallen into a deadly trap in Iran that he set himself. Right now, the American elite are furiously disowning the occupant of the White House. Appointees of the 47th president are scandalously fleeing the White House, slamming the doors behind them. The first to throw his resignation letter on the table was Joe Kent, now the former director of the National Counterterrorism Center.
I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran did not pose an immediate threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war under pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby, AIPAC.
Kent did not leave quietly, but with a major scandal. He openly accused the Trump administration of outright lying about the Iranian threat. Moreover, he stated that it was Israeli lobbyists who dragged the United States into this war, and that this special operation would bring nothing but death to ordinary Americans. This démarche has already had the effect of a bomb exploding. Senators are in shock, the Republican base is split, and Trump himself, he is receiving a harsh stab in the back from those he relied on just yesterday. And this is only the beginning of a grand collapse. The reputable publication The Economist openly states that the war in Iran is rapidly destroying Donald Trump's chances for a second term. The president was counting on a quick and victorious campaign, but instead got bogged down in fighting. And this internal turbulence is being felt by American citizens as well. Extremely shocking events are unfolding in the United States. A real apocalypse has erupted there. America has officially declared war on the White House. This is the largest uprising in the country's history. The No Kings movement has paralyzed all 50 states. No king! No king! No king! 9 million enraged citizens have taken to the streets with a single ultimatum: stop Trump's dictatorship. But these are no longer just protests, this is a global blaze. Paris, London, and Rome are shaken by rallies against the American invasion of Iran and the insane policies of Washington. The main battleground has become Minnesota, where thousands of people have gathered at the Capitol in St. Paul. The trigger was deadly raids by ICE enforcers. Agents shot 2 U.S. citizens at point-blank range. The people are demanding justice. Major cities are teetering on the brink of civil war. In Los Angeles, there was a gas attack. The police drenched protesters with tear gas, and in response, people used street fighting tactics, dispersing the chemical clouds with powerful leaf blowers.
Later, the Los Angeles police arrested people for refusing to disperse.
Earlier that same day, a band was playing and people were dancing to Spanish-language music. The Denver Police Department reported on social network X that they declared the gathering unlawful and used smoke grenades. This happened after a small group of protesters blocked the road and refused to disperse when ordered. According to the police, some people threw the grenades back at the officers. In
Washington, people carried signs saying, "Take off the crown, clown." Trump and his press office are trying to blame everything on a leftist conspiracy, but when tens of thousands of people take to the streets in conservative states, it becomes clear that discontent has spread throughout the entire country. The future of Donald Trump himself is now hanging by a thread, even in the corridors of Washington. The fatal question is being asked louder and louder: will he even finish his term? Everyone has turned against the 47th president, from the Pope to his own generals and millions of Americans. The political foundation beneath Trump's feet hasn't just cracked, it's crumbling to dust. While Marco Rubio deftly seizes the reins of power, the chair in the Oval Office has started to wobble. Will Trump be able to hold on to his slipping grip on power? Or are we about to witness the most sensational impeachment in history? The stakes have been raised to the limit, and the finale of this drama may come much sooner than the White House expects. Trump's ultimatum. If Iran does not sign the deal, a hardline scenario will begin. The US president issued a direct threat. Bridges will start to collapse in the country and power plants will be destroyed. Meanwhile, Tehran is responding with strikes. Israel and the Gulf countries are under fire. Kuwait and the UAE have suffered the most. Attacked energy facilities and government institutions, destroyed power plants, infrastructure. More details in the report.
the Kremlin provided Iran with satellite reconnaissance data on Israel's energy system. In an interview with the Associated Press, President Volodymyr Zelensky said that at least 50 critical sites are involved. Moscow is helping Tehran prepare attacks on the countries of the Persian Gulf, and this concerns not military but specifically civilian infrastructure, the head of state noted.
We have evidence, and we are 100% certain that Russia is now helping the Iranians in this war to attack Middle Eastern countries. We know this and have shared what we know.
Iran has not stopped its terrorist attacks on the states of the Persian Gulf. In the United Arab Emirates, a petrochemical facility was damaged as a result of Tehran's strike, as well as a fuel storage tank belonging to Bahrain. In Kuwait, the headquarters of an oil giant came under attack. Kuwait Petroleum Corporation. According to Bloomberg, a fire broke out there as a result.
The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps which seized power in the Islamic Republic. Iran stands on three pillars. These are fanaticism, corruption, and banditry. And it is precisely corruption and banditry that the whole world has to deal with now.
Iran does not wish to negotiate for peace. According to the Wall Street Journal, Tehran has officially informed the intermediary countries that Washington's conditions are unacceptable to the Iranian side. And Iran does not intend to meet with the American delegation in Pakistan. At the same time, sources from the Wall Street Journal note that Turkey and Egypt are striving to find a way out of the situation, working on new proposals to overcome the crisis and considering new venues for negotiations, including Istanbul or the Qatari capital, Doha. Meanwhile, the U.S. ally in the operation against Iran, Israel intends to coordinate a new wave of strikes with Washington. The main target is Iranian energy facilities, writes Sky News.
I promised you that we would continue to deliver crushing blows to the terrorist regime in Tehran, and that is exactly what we are doing. After we destroyed 70% of their steel production capacity, which serves as raw material for their weapons, we struck petrochemical plants. We will continue to deal them crushing blows as I promised. May joyful days lie ahead of us.
Since Tehran refused to negotiate with the American side, U.S. President Donald Trump made a statement to Iran. Ultimatum. The current government must reach a deal or unblock the Strait of Hormuz within 2 days. Otherwise, to quote, hell will rain down on Iran. The deadline expires on April 6th. However, as analysts note, such threats are not being made for the first time.
He has threatened to open the gates of hell and unleash hell on Iran. Hell, I don't even know how many times already. So yes, it's a certain kind of rhetorical cliche. What could be hiding behind it? Behind it could be the desire to deliver a convincing final chord for the external audience, which would allow Donald Trump, on a triumphant note, to report the destruction of all of Iran's military capabilities, its ability to threaten its neighbors, its industry, and its military potential.
The Iranian side, in response, promised that it would be the United States who would face the gates of hell. Reports from American intelligence, which Reuters was able to review, indicate that Iran is unlikely to close the Strait of Hormuz in the near future. A blockade of the sea route remains the only real lever of pressure on the United States. However, the head of the White House recently said that Washington does not need Middle Eastern oil and therefore he does not see the need to unblock the route. According to Donald Trump, this should be handled by the countries that require oil transported through the Strait of Hormuz. Nikita Skoblikov for Freedom TV channel.
Meanwhile, Zelensky is defeating the Kremlin on the diplomatic front. The first visit to Damascus is turning into the creation of a new defense alliance together with Syria and Turkey. The geopolitical game is reaching a new level. All the details are in the report.
Meanwhile, Kyiv is not giving up its diplomatic efforts to end Russia's war against Ukraine. President Volodymyr Zelensky discussed this issue with his Turkish counterpart. Recep Tayyip Erdogan proposed holding another round of negotiations in Istanbul. Ankara is ready to play a significant role in achieving a lasting peace and supports the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine, the president of Turkey assured. The heads of state discussed bilateral relations, the situation in Europe and the Middle East. As a result of the meeting, the parties agreed to cooperate in the field of security. Volodymyr Zelensky emphasized that Ukraine is ready for peace negotiations in any format, but Moscow is constantly trying to buy time and extract maximum benefit from the escalation in the Middle East. And that is precisely why Russia provided Iran with satellite intelligence data on Israel's energy system, which helps Iran carry out strikes on civilian infrastructure with no military purpose whatsoever. We are talking about at least 50 critical facilities.
Thanks to this, Russia receives additional resources. So yes, it is profiting from this war. And of course they believe that because of the war with Iran, military aid to Ukraine will decrease. And naturally, they are counting on that as well. We have evidence, and we are 100% certain that Russia is now helping the Iranians in this war to attack countries in the Middle East.
A prolonged operation by the US and Israel against Iran in the Middle East could weaken Washington's support for Kyiv, said Volodymyr Zelensky in an interview with the Associated Press. At the same time, Russia has no intention of ending the war. The Kremlin, as before, seeks the complete occupation of Ukraine and does not stop its terrorist shelling of Ukrainian cities for even a single day. That is why Kyiv critically needs additional missiles for the Patriot air defense systems to protect against Russian attacks.
We are not a priority. It seems to me that their attention is focused on the Middle East. This is not just my personal opinion. I think that the whole world understands that the American military, is focused on the Middle East, yes, on Iran. That is why I am afraid that a prolonged war will lead to a reduction in support for us. I am 100% certain that if the war does not end, the package, which is already small for us, will become smaller and smaller with each passing day.
Ukraine is ready to help its allies unblock the Strait of Hormuz, as it has unique experience in countering the Russian blockade in the Black Sea, and it is willing to share this experience with its partners, the head of state noted. Kyiv is also ready to assist with expertise in defending against massive combined attacks from Iran. The president of Ukraine discussed the situation in the Middle East with Syrian President Ahmed al-Shar in Damascus. This visit was a continuation of the Ukrainian head of state's diplomatic tour of Middle Eastern countries. Volodymyr Zelensky arrived in Syria together with Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan. Damascus is showing great interest in exchanging experience in the field of security, noted Volodymyr Zelensky. One of the central topics in the talks with the president of Syria was the region's food security and the role of Ukraine as a reliable supplier of food products.
And what do you think about the latest events? We look forward to your comments. There's more to come. Stay informed about the main news and don't forget to like. Peaceful skies above your head.